Hello and welcome to my podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective on healing body and mind. My name is Sandra Hayes and I'm a Vedic practitioner, meaning I utilize Ayurveda, yoga and Vedic astrology as well as transformational creativity to help you become a conscious creator of your own life, health and well-being. For more information and for access to my online learning platform, The Little School of Happiness, please go to www.sandrahayes.eu. In May 1992, I was about 22 years old, I went for a spin across Berlin on the back of my friend's motorbike. It was dark by the time we made our way home, and near a crossroad in the middle of the city, two kids suddenly came out of nowhere and ran across the road, forcing my friend to quickly turn his bike away. We full-on hit a lamppost and I was catapulted 40 meters across the street, or at least so I was told later. I sustained various life-threatening injuries, including an impalement through my perineum and abdomen, and fractures to my pelvis. My friend died that night in the hospital. I received surgery immediately to address my blood loss and spent 2 weeks on high doses of morphine in the emergency ward. And then I was moved into a general ward for the remainder of the whole summer. I remember groups of students observing my body, and someone took pictures of my injuries for the medical books. And I was fitted with a colostomy bag, and I was told that I'd have to live with it for the rest of my life. Some of my teeth were gone too, but I remember grinning through clouds of morphine at my friends, feeling oddly alive. My friends had come to visit and they pushed my hospital bed into the garden almost every day. They brought along their instruments and we sat outside under the weeping willows of the urban hospital in Berlin. And I was singing many toothless songs accompanied by guitars and a saxophone. And they dyed my hair with henna while I was lying in bed, and they brought me news from the outside world. I remembered this as a really good time. By the end of the summer, I slowly started to walk again. And being young and restless, I soon felt the freedom of movement in my body, and then I couldn't stop myself. I left the hospital against the doctor's advice. Following the invitation of a friend, I left my crutches behind and I went traveling through Europe for a few weeks. And although my spine and sacrum had been really badly damaged, I was really supported by my friends, and I limped around the south of France. I drank wine by the riversides, and I even learned to juggle at a circus festival in Spain while sitting down. And 6 months later, my colostomy bag was removed. The doctors took pictures of me again, but this time it was because I had healed so much better than anyone could have ever predicted. And soon after that, I went to study physical theater, took tap dance lessons, flamenco and belly dance classes. And now, many years later, but I have, except for some scars and a stiffness in my left hip and knee, a little bit of a stiffness, but I have no lasting effect of the accident, nothing that would impact my everyday life. My body healed itself completely. And why? Because that's what it was designed to do. This experience was really pivotal for me. It taught me a healthy respect for my life. And from this time onwards, I began to see my body and the human body in general with very different eyes. I recognized that it's not merely a machine or some kind of tool that moves us through life, which needs fixing every now and then and has to, look a certain way or has a certain shape to be accepted by society, but that in fact it is a living, intelligent organism. It's an expression of our deepest consciousness, a higher intelligence, whose sole goal it is to keep us in a state of health so that we can fulfill our higher purpose. I learned that I really needed to love my body in the same way that I love my children, and that's unconditionally. The body really is a self-healing organism. It's incredibly capable of repairing the damage that it experiences every day. Whether it is an accidental injury or trauma or some other damage that we inflict ourselves on it through our diet and lifestyle, the body will do anything in its power to return to a state of health and balance all the time. We just have to let it. All we have to do is to stop damaging it, or at least slow down the rate of the damage enough for the healing mechanisms to be able to catch up again. And if we just listened a little bit more to our body, if we learned how to read the subtle messages that it is constantly trying to give us and treat it like the really good friend that it actually is, we would be able to live a much more deeply fulfilling life with a lot less suffering. So with this podcast, I am hoping to encourage you and inspire you a little bit to understand, first of all, understand yourself, understand your body a little bit better, understand Ayurvedic principles, which are really principles of life, of, how to have a good relationship with yourself and with life, and how to be a little bit more in control, take responsibility for your own health, because it is all in you and in all of us to heal and to prevent disease, and also sometimes to reverse them if we create the right circumstances, because our bodies really are able to heal themselves. I give you another example of this. When I ever since my accident, I have been really on a journey. I've studied, many things. I've gone in the creative, on the creative path, and also on the healing path. And I've done many things from shiatsu to health science and nutrition and yoga, of course, and Ayurveda. And so when I finished my Ayurvedic studies, which I've done in both Ireland and the UK in London, and it was like, altogether it was 3 years, a 3-year study. So I've not taken a full university course as they are available in India to become an Ayurvedic doctor. I've had, when I was living in Ireland, I had my own Ayurvedic doctors. I used to go to one of them, Rajvinder Kaur, who did the foreword for my book, an amazing woman, an amazing Ayurvedic doctor. You can find her on ayurveda.ie. And I knew that my scope of things was limited. I can help people, find the right lifestyle, the right nutrition. I can certainly help people create the basis for self-healing. But when I first started practicing, I wasn't really aware of how what an impact that alone can make, because I remember one of my first clients coming to me, and she had a whole list of diagnoses, a whole list of medications. She was she wasn't able to work. She was very, very, her energy was very low. She had several diagnoses. And I remember thinking in my mind, how can I possibly help this woman when I don't even know the medication she's on? And I had to look up some of the issues, and I just felt a little bit helpless. And but I decided, okay, she had her doctor anyway. She was working with a doctor, and I wasn't going to stand in the way of anything. It was her goal to get off her medication. But that, she had to, of course, work with her doctor on that. But I decided just to simply give her the best basis for her body to heal itself. And then, in communication with her doctor, she might then be able to cut down on the medication, depending on how she would feel. And so I just decided to not expect anything, but just do my best. And I recommended the lifestyle and the diet to her, and some treatments and herbal remedies. And so in myself, to be really honest, I didn't expect much. I thought, I won't be able to help her. She might not come back at all. But quite the opposite happened. She came back a few times. She took it very serious as well. She stuck to the lifestyle and diet recommendations I gave her. And after, I think, about maybe 3 months, she came back to me, or maybe 4 months. She was with me in May, and by September, she had not only gone off almost all medication. It was a list of about 7 or 8 different medications, and there was one that she still had to stay on. All the others were gone. She was working again. Not only was she working again, but she was starting a business, her dream business, because she said she had never felt so much energy before. Her pain was gone. She was in constant pain before. Everything was gone. And I realized that this had nothing to do with, knowledge of disease, knowledge of symptoms, of medications. This was simply a facilitation of healing. I just guided her along a path that would enable her to heal herself. And this is what it's about, really. It's about this self-healing mechanisms. And yes, of course, if you have, if you really have pressing issues that you want to have looked at, the best thing is go to a doctor, go to an Ayurvedic doctor if you can. But don't underestimate the power of just setting the basis, the power of diet and lifestyle, the power of self-love, the power of simple routines and simple things like a little bit of a detoxification program, a simple detoxification program, massage treatments, yoga, breathing exercises. All of those things are much more powerful than many of us might believe, because we have to just do it regularly for a while. And that's where sometimes people fail, because we have this conditioning that when we are sick, we go to the doctor, we get a pill, and it will get better. And it's not like that in Ayurveda. Yes, it is possible that you might get a pill, you might get some herbal capsules or tablets maybe, or powder, but this is to support you. There's many different ways, but the core of it, the core of any treatment, is your diet and lifestyle. And that has a really good reason as well. And we'll go over the next episodes, we'll go through all of those reasons so that you understand what is actually happening and why is this so important. Because everybody can take responsibility for themselves. Everybody can facilitate their own healing if only they are aware of how. And if you're aware of how your body really works, what your body is, because there is often a misunderstanding in our society, in our Western world as well. We think of the body as a machine to be fixed if it's not working, to be changed, if we don't like it. But through the Ayurvedic perspective, it isn't like that at all. And I will go over the next episodes really bit by bit through all of the different factors, the different paradigms that we have to learn to see and to adapt a different mindset in order to really understand not only our own body, but all of nature and the whole world and really the whole universe. And with that understanding, we will feel a lot more trusting of it as well. We will feel a lot more trusting of the time we live in as well. And I just want to say a little bit about that, about the time, the quality of time that we live in right now, according to the Vedas, because I think this is a really important point as well, because many of us are worried, and especially over the last few years, over, living through a pandemic and all the, and the war, and, there's so many things happening in this world that would cause any of us, of course, to worry. But when we look at the big picture, then we might have a little bit of a different understanding of it. So in the Vedic texts, there is a description of time as in it is a quality, not only a quantity. So time is created by the movement of light through space. That means the planets or the heavenly bodies. It's not all planets. There's stars and moons. The sun, for example, the movement of the earth around the sun, creates our year. The movement of the moon around the earth creates our month, and the rotation of the earth creates the day. So it's all to do with the movement of the heavenly bodies. And of course, there are many more cycles than just the ones that I've just described, the ones that we know in our daily life, the days and months and years and the seasons. There are much larger cycles as well, the movement of the solar system around the galactic center, for example. And these are also recognized in the Vedic traditions. And also, what is different is that all of it has a quality as well as a quantity. It's not just a cold cut off, number. It's not just a quantity, how many hours are in the day, how many days are in the year, and so on. All of this also has a quality, an effect on our consciousness. So our mind, our consciousness is differently influenced depending on where we are at in these cycles of time. And we all know this, of course, in the seasonal influences. All of us will know, and especially those who live in climates with very clear-cut seasons. I live here in the south of Germany, where the seasons can be quite extreme. I live near the mountains, and so in the winter, right now, it's the beginning of February, and there's still snow outside. It's quite cold. It's snowing right now. But then in the summer, it can be quite hot. It's, 30, 35 degrees is not unusual. And then there's spring and autumn in between. And each of those seasons obviously has a very different quality. There's a different feeling connected to it. My mindset and my outlook on the world, my moods as well, are different in winter and in summer. It's not necessarily good and bad, because in winter it can be beautiful as well to be, more inward and quiet and cozy. But it is undeniable that there are different qualities. And the Vedic view is that this is not just according to our seasons, but it's according to all cycles. The different quality of time, we feel different, whether it's a full moon or a new moon, and we might not be aware of it. But I remember a very good friend of mine who was working as a nurse telling me that always at full moon, she was working as a psychiatric nurse, and she was telling me once that always around the full moon there is so much happening, as in new patients or patients being maybe feeling differently, more extreme. So and we all, any one of us who is a little bit sensitive knows the feeling of not being able to sleep so well around the full moon. So we know there is it's undeniable that there is a quality to it. And if that is the case, if there's a quality to the smaller cycles, then there must be a quality also to the bigger cycles. And the Vedas describe this beautifully, and describe the galactic center, which in the Western science is described as a black hole, really, is as is, always microcosm and macrocosm, the whole universe is described like a fractal of the same consciousness. And when we talk about the center of our galaxy, this black hole, then we also talk about Krishna, the dark one, the self. It is the true self. It's the center of our self as well. And the closer we are to this center, the closer our solar system is to the galactic center, the closer we also are to our self. That means the more aware we are of our authentic self. And that means that the closer we are to the galactic center, the more enlightened we are. And then in that big cycle of moving closer and moving away again to the galactic center, the further away we get, the less conscious we are, the less able we are to understand the more subtle aspects of life. So we are more able just to understand the pure basics and matter rather than energy and the soul, for example. But when we are closer to the galactic center, then we are able to understand all these very, very subtle aspects of life. And there have been calculations made in the Vedas as well that describe where we are at in these cycles. And there's been a few different calculations. And one that I feel particularly drawn to is by Sri Yukteswar, who describes it in a book called The Holy Science that was written, I'm not sure, I don't remember now, what, 1800 and something. It's quite an old work. But there's also another book by Joseph Salby called The Yugas, which describe these calculations in great detail. And it really is a book that I absolutely recommend. It was, very, very inspiring book. So these calculations, they're relatively new calculations. They tell us that right now we are in the ascending Dwapara Yuga, which means, just to explain a little bit more about the yugas, these great cycles, they have been divided into 4 parts, just for ease of understanding. Satya Yuga is the age of enlightenment. That's when we really are very close to our center and to the galactic center. And then as we move away, we are we get into Treta Yuga, and then Dwapara Yuga, and then we are in the darkest age of Kali Yuga, and then we are ascending again from Kali Yuga, from the darkest age, to Dwapara Yuga, and from there again to Treta Yuga, and then back to Satya Yuga. And these cycles repeat again and again. And so according to Sri Yukteswar's calculations, we were in the darkest time at around the year 500 AD. And around the year 1900, we entered the ascending Dwapara Yuga, which makes a lot of sense because around that time, electricity was invented, and Einstein came up with the relativity theory, and it matches the descriptions of those yugas perfectly well, because Dwapara Yuga is all about energy. We are beginning to understand energy. We are beginning to explore energy. But like I said, we are at the beginning of Dwapara Yuga, because Dwapara Yuga is altogether 2,400 years long. So we can just imagine that, we are now still at the kind of material phase of it. We're only beginning to understand energy without matter. And so in that transition away from the darkest time, any transition is always difficult. And particularly, I can imagine the upward transition. It's like, going on a hike. The walk up the mountain is harder than the walk down the mountain. And so, yes, a lot of things will have to happen that will force us out of our comfort zone that we have been in if we want any change at all, then we have to be forced out of it. And that is one of the principles of also Ayurveda, is that there is a constant change, and that change always has to do with a certain desire. So anything that changes in life always has to do with desire and aversion. I will only change something when I either desire something, when I want to go towards something else, or when I want to go away from something that doesn't suit me. And both of this require that the present moment is becoming uncomfortable. So uncomfortable that something else is either better, or I have to just run away from the present moment altogether. And that is a principle. That's the principle of evolution, really. It's any part in evolution happens because there is a certain desire. So if I don't know how many millions of years ago, if water creatures have been disturbed in their normal lifestyle by maybe a meteor hitting the oceans, and their usual food sources became scarce, and then they had to go and move towards shallow regions. And in those shallow regions, they experience that they have to, deal with the shallow region, with the ground that they didn't have to deal with before, and they have to press their fins against the floor, which makes the muscles of the fins grow, and the fins become, fins that are able to move along the floor. So maybe like in a seal, and then the more further inland they come, and out of the water they come, the more those fins muscles grow and pull on the bones and create legs eventually. So that's how evolution is depicted anyway. But it always starts with a desire for something. It always starts with the need for something that I don't have right now. And so it is a very natural thing that we have to be in a situation that we don't particularly like in order to move toward a different situation that is better. And to me, it's always a beautiful thought that to know that, yes, we are in an ascending yuga. It is actually getting better, even though it might take a few obstacles, and it's not always an easy walk, but we are walking upward, and we are moving toward enlightenment. All of us are moving toward enlightenment. And to me, this is a beautiful thought, and one that also, I think, helps me trust a little bit, trust in the quality of time, trust in the universe, trust in myself as well. And so this is a little bit of an introduction that I wanted to give you, a little bit of my background story, and a little bit about, the reasons why this is important to me. It's important also, it's so much more important to me to teach people and to empower people to know about this, because then they have all the tools available to them. Because I realize over the last, 10 years, particularly, that we really have all the power ourselves, and it is all in our consciousness. If we can open our minds, if we can shift our consciousness, see the bigger picture, then we can do so much. And it's so easy, really, to start taking responsibility back, and caring for our own self and our own body. And so that is what I'm hoping to do with this podcast, to give you some of the inspiration, some of the knowledge of Ayurveda, and also some of the practical tools of it, so that you can start your own journey, and you can start also a journey of really having a great relationship with yourself and with your body, a really good bond with your body and yourself. If you want, you can download my book from Amazon or the book depository. There's an ebook version available, Ayurveda, Health, Digestion and Immunity. There's also a printed version available that you can buy on the different platforms. I'm currently also working on the German translation and on a little bit of an updated version as well. If you have any particular questions or requests for me to talk about, then please do send me a message. I'd be very happy to reply or to include your questions in some of the next episodes. Until then, have a really lovely time and enjoy connecting with yourself and with your body. Bye for now. You were listening to a podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective of body and mind by Sandra Hayes and the Little School of Happiness. For more information and offers, go to www.sandrahayes.eu.